Growing up, life was pretty normal until my mom, Sarah, met Craig. I was 17, a senior in high school with dreams of becoming an engineer. Craig seemed great at first, charming, attentive to mom, and acting like he wanted to be friends with me too. But something always felt off about him. I started noticing how his smile never reached his eyes when he looked at me. How he always tried to assert himself as the alpha male in our house. I should have recognized those early warning signs. Before I tell you what happened, where are you watching from today? Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever had to deal with a toxic person trying to come between you and someone you love. I was always a pretty good student. My senior year was going well. I maintained a solid B+ average while working part-time at Johnson's hardware store downtown. I genuinely enjoyed helping customers find exactly what they needed for their home projects. The extra money was going straight into my college fund. Ever since I was 12, I had been dreaming about studying engineering at State University, about 70 miles from our town. My mom, Sarah, had been raising me on her own since I was 10. The divorce from my dad was rough. He had problems with gambling that eventually tore our family apart. He moved to Arizona and barely kept in touch. Mom worked long hours as a nurse at Memorial Hospital, often taking double shifts to make ends meet. Despite the challenges, we had a good life together. She was my rock, and I tried my best to make her proud. Everything changed when Craig Peterson walked into our lives. He worked in hospital administration and met my mom during a staff meeting. According to Mom, he had been pursuing her for weeks before she finally agreed to go on a date. I remember the night she told me about him. Her eyes sparkled in a way I hadn't seen in years. Their relationship moved quickly. Within 6 months, Craig had moved into our house. At first, he made an effort to win me over, buying me a new gaming console for my birthday, taking us out to fancy restaurants and talking up my college ambitions. "This kid is going places, Sarah," he would say, patting me on the back a little too hard. "We need to support his dreams." The cracks started showing about 3 months after he moved in. It began with small things. Craig questioning why Mom needed to go out with her friends on Friday nights, suggesting they stay home instead. He would check her phone while she was in the shower, claiming he was just looking for a picture they took together. When bills came in, he insisted on controlling the family finances, saying, "Mom worked too hard to worry about boring paperwork." I noticed how Craig would subtly try to establish dominance whenever we were in the same room. He would correct my table manners, criticize how I mowed the lawn, or compare me unfavorably to real men who knew how to change their own oil or hunt. I had never been interested in hunting, and Craig seemed to take this as a personal affront to his masculinity. A man should know how to provide for his family, he would lecture, while cleaning his hunting rifle. Not everyone can rely on scholarships and office jobs. Some of us have to be willing to get our hands dirty. To keep the peace for Mom's sake, I started spending more time at work, or with my best friend Jordan. When I was home, I tried to be supportive of Mom's relationship, even though alarm bells were constantly ringing in my head. She seemed happy, at least on the surface, and I told myself that was what mattered most. My acceptance letter to State University's engineering program arrived on a Tuesday in April. I had been checking the mail obsessively for weeks, and when I saw the thick envelope with the university logo, my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I ran inside shouting for Mom, who was in the kitchen preparing dinner. "I got in, Mom. I got in." I waved the letter like a victory flag. Mom screamed and hugged me tight, both of us jumping up and down like little kids. Craig walked in from the living room, a puzzled look on his face. "What's all the commotion about Marlon got accepted to State University?" Mom said, wiping happy tears from her eyes. "Full engineering program, just like he always wanted." Craig's congratulations felt hollow. "That's great, but state is expensive. Have you considered community college for the first 2 years? Much more practical." Mom's smile faltered slightly. "We have been saving for this since he was 12, Craig. We have a college fund." "Well, in this economy, we should think about being cautious with our money," Craig replied, opening a beer from the fridge. "Just something to consider." A week later, I discovered Craig had been borrowing from my college fund. Mom had given him access to all our accounts, including the savings we had painstakingly built over years of sacrifice. $5,000 was missing. When I confronted Mom about it, she seemed confused and defensive. Craig said he needed to invest some money temporarily for a business opportunity. He promised it would come back with interest before your tuition is due. I had a sinking feeling that money was gone forever. The situation came to a head when I overheard an argument between Mom and Craig late one night. I had been studying for finals but came downstairs for a glass of water. We simply cannot afford to send him to that university right now, Craig was saying, his voice low but intense. The economy is uncertain, and we need to be building our safety net. That money was set aside specifically for Marlon's education, Mom countered. And you just spent $30,000 on a new truck. How is that building our safety net? That truck is an investment, Craig snapped. I need reliable transportation for work. Are you comparing your son's liberal arts fantasies to my actual job? Engineering is not a liberal arts fantasy, Mom shot back. And it is not your money to decide how to spend. I stepped into the kitchen, then unable to listen silently anymore. Is this about my college fund? Craig's face darkened. This is an adult conversation, Marlon. Go back to your room. No, I said firmly. If you are talking about my future, I deserve to be part of the conversation. What followed was a heated exchange, where I called Craig out for taking money that Mom and I had saved before he was even in the picture. Craig eventually stormed out, slamming the door and peeling out of the driveway in his brand new truck. I sat with Mom at the kitchen table, comforting her as she cried. I will figure something out, Mom. I can apply for more scholarships, maybe work full-time over the summer. I am so sorry, Marlon, she whispered. I never thought he would do something like this. Craig returned hours later, stumbling slightly and reeking of whiskey. He pointed a finger at me. You think you are so smart, turning your mother against me. This is my house too, and you will respect me. Mom stood up. That is enough, Craig. Go sleep it off. Over the next 2 weeks, I noticed Craig behaving strangely. Several times I came home from work to find things in my room slightly out of place. My desk drawer that I always left closed would be open a crack. My backpack would be in a different position than where I had left it. One day I found a small plastic bag containing white pills tucked into the corner of my desk drawer. I had never seen them before, and immediately flushed them down the toilet, thinking Craig must have accidentally left them there while snooping through my things. 3 days later, I found another bag, this time hidden in my gym bag. That was when I realized what was happening. Craig was planting drugs in my room. He was setting me up. I confided in my best friend Jordan about what was happening. You need proof, dude, he advised. Set up a hidden camera or something. This guy is trying to destroy your life. I planned to buy a small camera that weekend, but Craig made his move before I could act. During dinner on Friday night, Craig excused himself to use the bathroom. When he returned, his expression was grave. Sarah, I need to speak with you in private, he said, not looking at me. Whatever you need to say, you can say it here, Mom replied, sensing the tension. Craig dramatically produced a plastic bag from his pocket. It contained at least 20 pills. I found these hidden in Marlon's room. I was looking for the stapler and opened his desk drawer. These were underneath some papers. Mom turned to me, shock written across her face. Marlon, that is not mine, I said immediately, my heart pounding. I have never seen those before. Then how did they get in your desk? Craig asked, his voice dripping with fake concern. Sarah, I have noticed changes in his behavior lately. Mood swings, sleeping, odd hours, money disappearing from my wallet. That is a lie, I shouted, standing up so quickly, my chair fell backward. Mom, he is lying. He planted those drugs. He has been going through my things for weeks. Craig put his arm around Mom's shoulders. I know this is hard to hear. Denial is common with addiction. But we need to address this before he throws away his future. Mom looked between us, confusion and pain in her eyes. I want him to take a drug test, Craig insisted. Right now. If I am wrong, I will apologize. Mom nodded slowly. That seems reasonable. Marlon, would you be willing to take a test? Of course I would, I said, still shaking with anger. But first, can I talk to you alone, Mom? Please. Craig started to protest, but Mom held up her hand. Give us a few minutes, Craig. In my bedroom, I poured out everything. How Craig had been undermining me from the beginning, how he had taken money from my college fund, and how I had found planted drugs twice before. He wants to drive a wedge between us, Mom. He wants me gone so he can control you completely. This is what abusers do. They isolate their victims. Unknown to us, Craig had been listening at the door. He burst in face, contorted with rage. You ungrateful little liar. After everything I have done for you and your mother, Craig, please calm down, Mom said, standing up. We are just talking. Talking. He is filling your head with lies about me. Craig stepped closer to me, jabbing his finger into my chest. You think I do not know what game you are playing, trying to manipulate your mother against me, because you cannot handle having a real man in the house. I stepped back, trying to defuse the situation. I am just telling her the truth. The truth. Craig laughed harshly. The truth is, you are a spoiled brat who has had mommy all to himself for too long. The truth is, you are probably on drugs, and instead of taking responsibility, you are making up stories about me. Mom moved between us. Craig, this is getting out of hand. I think we all need some space to cool down. Maybe you should go for a drive. Craig's face changed then. The mask fell completely away, revealing something ugly and frightening underneath. Do not tell me what to do in my own house, he hissed. I pay the bills here. I make the decisions. This house is in my name, Mom said quietly. And Marlon lives here too. We all have a say. Craig turned on her, then verbal abuse, pouring out of him like toxic waste. He called her stupid, gullible, a terrible mother. Said she was nothing before he came along. I had never seen him speak to her this way before, though I had suspected it happened when I wasn't around. I couldn't stand it anymore. Don't talk to my mother that way, I said, stepping forward. You need to leave. Now. That was when Craig snapped completely. His fist connected with my jaw before I even saw it coming. Pain exploded across my face as I stumbled backward. Before I could recover, he grabbed me by the shirt collar and slammed me against the wall. You think you can tell me what to do, boy? He growled, spraying spittle in my face. I will teach you some respect. What followed was a blur of violence. Craig outweighed me by at least 50 pounds, all of it muscle from his construction job before hospital administration. I tried to protect myself without fighting back, knowing that would only escalate the situation. A punch to my stomach doubled me over. A knee to my face sent blood spurting from my nose. Mom was screaming, pulling at Craig's arm. Stop it. You are going to kill him. Stop. Craig shoved her away. He needs to learn. This is how men handle things. He landed another blow to my ribs that left me gasping for air. Through my one eye that wasn't swelling shut, I saw something change in Mom's face. A clarity. A resolve I had never seen before. She grabbed a lamp from my desk and smashed it against the wall. The crash stopped Craig mid-punch. He turned to look at her. Get out of my house, she said, her voice deadly calm. Get out now, or I am calling the police. Sarah, you do not understand. He needs discipline. Discipline. Mom's laugh was bitter. That is not discipline. That is assault. My son does not do drugs. You planted them to turn me against him. I see everything clearly now. Craig tried a different approach, his voice suddenly gentle. Baby, you are upset. We can talk about this. I lost my temper, I admit it. But he pushed me. I am not interested in your excuses. Mom cut him off. Pack your things. You have 30 minutes. Craig's face cycled through shock, anger, and then calculation. You cannot kick me out. We are a family. We are not family, Mom said. A family does not do this. She gestured to my bloody face. While Craig continued to plead and threaten alternately, Mom went to their bedroom and began packing his clothes into suitcases. He followed her, still trying to manipulate the situation. I heard them arguing as I sat on my bed, pressing a towel to my bleeding nose. 20 minutes later, Craig was standing in our driveway with 2 suitcases and a duffel bag. You will regret this, Sarah, he called out. Both of you will. This is not over. Mom closed and locked the door, then called the police to report the assault. When she returned to my room with an ice pack, her hands were shaking but her eyes were clear. I am so sorry, Marlon, she whispered. I should have seen who he really was. The next few weeks were difficult. My physical injuries healed faster than our emotional ones. I had a black eye, 3 bruised ribs, and a split lip. Mom had called in sick to work for a week, to take care of me, and process what had happened. Craig didn't go quietly. He called constantly, sometimes pleading, sometimes threatening. When Mom blocked his number, he started showing up at the hospital during her shifts. Security had to escort him out twice. He sent flowers with manipulative notes. He even approached my boss at the hardware store to explain his side of the story. We filed for a restraining order, but Craig found ways around it. He would park just outside the legal distance from our house or the hospital. He would get mutual acquaintances to relay messages. The psychological warfare was almost worse than the physical violence had been. One night, unable to sleep, I started researching Craig online. I had never really looked into his background before. What I found shocked me. Using social media and public records, I discovered he had a pattern of behavior that stretched back years. There were hints of similar situations with at least 2 other women, moving in quickly, isolating them financial control, and eventually allegations of abuse that never seemed to result in charges. That was when I decided Craig couldn't simply walk away from what he had done to us. He would just find another single mom to victimize. I needed to stop him permanently but legally. I created a detailed spreadsheet documenting every interaction with Craig since the assault, every call text citing, and violation of the restraining order. I took photos of my injuries as they healed. I recorded Mom's account of the financial manipulation. Then, I took a bigger step. Using information I found online, I reached out to Angela, a woman who had dated Craig 3 years earlier. Our conversation was cautious at first, but when I explained what had happened to Mom and me, the floodgates opened. "He did the same things to me," Angela said, her voice trembling, even over the phone. "The control, the isolation, the accusations. He convinced me my 16-year-old daughter was stealing from him. I almost sent her to live with my sister because of his lies." Over the next month, I connected with 2 more women from Craig's past. Together, we built a comprehensive timeline of his abusive patterns. One woman, Teresa, had documentation of him taking $20,000 from her savings before disappearing. Another, Lynette, had photos of bruises similar to mine. While building this case, I also discovered Craig had transferred far more than $5,000 from our accounts. Bank records showed he had systematically drained almost $15,000 from my college fund through multiple small transactions. With this evidence in hand, I consulted a lawyer who specialized in domestic abuse cases. Ms. Hernandez reviewed our documentation and agreed to take our case pro bono. This is one of the most thoroughly documented cases of systematic abuse I have seen, she told us. Most victims don't have the presence of mind or resources to gather this kind of evidence. We filed formal charges against Craig: assault, theft, harassment, and violation of the restraining order. The police, initially dismissive of what they saw as family drama, changed their tune when presented with the pattern of behavior across multiple families. The final piece fell into place when an anonymous email, which I strongly suspect came from one of Craig's former co-workers, revealed he had been fired from his previous hospital job for inappropriate use of medical records to track a bien abreuador's former girlfriend's appointments. 6 months after the night he attacked me, Craig stood before a judge, facing multiple charges from 4 different women. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge sentenced him to 18 months in prison, 5 years of probation, and required restitution to all his victims. Most importantly, a permanent restraining order was put in place, protecting not just us, but all the women who had come forward. As Craig was led away in handcuffs, he locked eyes with me one last time. I did not see anger there anymore, just defeat. He had underestimated the 17-year-old boy he tried to frame and destroy. He had not expected me to be methodical, patient, and determined to see justice done. 1 year later, my life looked completely different. I had started my engineering program at State University as planned. The restitution payments from Craig had helped restore my college fund, and I had secured 2 small scholarships to cover the rest. Mom had transformed too. After months of therapy, she had reconnected with old friends Craig had driven away. She had taken up hiking on weekends and joined a book club. The shadows under her eyes had disappeared, replaced by a quiet confidence I had never seen before. Our relationship was stronger than ever. The trauma we had shared had forced us to communicate more openly about everything. We had weekly video calls where we talked about classes, work, and our feelings, something neither of us had been particularly good at before. Mom had even started a support group at the hospital for survivors of domestic abuse. If I can help one woman recognize the warning signs earlier than I did, it is worth it, she told me. As for me, the experience changed how I viewed all relationships. I became more observant of subtle red flags, not just in romantic contexts, but in friendships and professional interactions, too. I learned that manipulation often begins so gradually you barely notice it until you are trapped. Mom started dating again eventually, but with careful boundaries. She introduced me to Alan, a kind-hearted science teacher, after they had been seeing each other for 3 months. I wanted to be sure before you met him, she explained. And I wanted him to understand that we come as a package deal. My son will always be part of my life. The experience with Craig also connected us to an entire community of survivors. Teresa, one of Craig's former victims, became a close family friend. Her daughter babysat for Lynette's kids. Angela joined Mom's support group and later became a facilitator herself. Together, we had turned our individual traumas into a network of strength and healing. During my sophomore year of college, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. It was from Craig's sister, Jennifer. Craig had been released early, on good behavior. Jennifer wanted me to know he had completed an anger management program and was moving to Oregon for a fresh start. He told me what happened with your family, she wrote. He is different now. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive him someday. I showed the email to Mom during our next video call. Are you going to respond, she asked. I thought about it for a long moment. No, I finally said. Forgiveness doesn't require reconnection. I hope he has changed for the sake of any woman who crosses his path in the future. But we don't need to be part of his redemption story. Mom nodded. That is very wise, Marlon. Looking back at everything we endured, I realized that the greatest revenge was not putting Craig in jail or getting financial restitution. The greatest revenge was reclaiming our lives and helping others reclaim theirs. The greatest revenge was breaking the cycle of abuse and building something beautiful from the wreckage. Have you ever had to stand up against someone who is hurting you or someone you love? Share your story in the comments below. Remember that speaking your truth can help others recognize abuse in their own lives. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories of resilience and justice. Thank you for listening, and remember, your voice matters, and you are stronger than you know.